Hello and welcome to the Merle and Locke podcast. I'm Merle.
And I'm Locke.
Set sail, I had low expectations for everything nerd, accompanied by a healthy, albeit shameful, helping to pointless banter, lack of focus, and questionably acquired knowledge.
And more.
And more. It's that season, the season of yoga pants and pumpkin spice lattes. Are you excited, sir?
Yeah, just gotta get my nice old tights on.
Yogi pants?
Yeah.
I already have mine on.
Yeah.
Man, I'm ready to go.
That's
ready
hot.
to rock it, buddy. It's almost Halloween, and we got a suggestion from our patron.
Con.
Right. So thank you, Con, for the suggestion. We appreciate it. So the suggestion was, if there was to be a zombie apocalypse tomorrow, where would we hide out, I suppose, was the question specifically?
Amongst other questions that were in there from what I had seen.
Take the lead on this one, and let's get into it.
Well, the thing is, Khan and I had talked about the whole zombie apocalypse, and that's kind of what sparked the idea, because they claim that I would not survive the apocalypse, which I think is just downright ridiculous. I have final guy energy. I would absolutely be able to do it. It was all because we just didn't agree as to where's the best place to hide out, or to kind of be your sanctuary, if you will. What do you think would be the best sanctuary?
If we're speaking to just a place to play it safe, my initial thought was go to a place that's not very populated. The less people there are around, the less possibility of coming in contact with someone that's infected. I wouldn't try to take over a well-defensible place necessarily. I would just go where it was less populated. Where I have access to food and water, hunting for survival, not so much scavenging from grocery stores and things like that, because I know that there's going to be a lot of competition. So I would want to avoid that. So I would naturally go probably deep into a national forest or something like that, and try to separate myself from the rest of the population. Either that, or have a sailboat as, just a means of safety. If I need to come back to land, gather water, maybe have a little safe haven on land that I'll go to whenever I need to resupply, like fresh water and such. Otherwise, I could, go out into the water in the sailboat. Sailboat, because gas is going to be hard to come by, so I don't want to go for anything that requires that, or any trolling. Sail out, get away from land, and know that I'm safe right there. But there's also the thought that kind of silhouettes me against the horizon. So if there are other scavengers about that, are a little bit more morally questionable, that think oh, there's somebody we can take advantage of, or maybe they have supplies and they see me as a target and they come after me. So considering that, something like that were to possibly happen, I'd go back to the forest. The forest, I'm not silhouetted. I'll have to try and control, smoke and what have you during the winter months. So I don't highlight my position to other folk that may be looking for supplies themselves or shoring supplies themselves and are incapable of harvesting their own food, so that they try to steal from others, because, that's going to be pretty prevalent if there were to be a zombie apocalypse. I'm not so concerned about infected at this point once I separate myself from society. It's more so other survivors that I would have to stress about.
In that scenario, you got to trust your own instincts, and there are a lot of people who are going to be only fending for themselves. They don't care about what everybody else is doing. They don't care about your survival of the fittest at that point. Keep yourself away from the main populace. The where people might go to most. And I hesitate to go to any shops that may be in a town somewhere where it's just a lot of travel. So like your bigger towns or your bigger cities, it's best to stay clear from those areas because those are going to be like your first spots that people are going to hit up. They're going to go, I'm going to go here. I'm going to go rob a grocery. Well, not rob at this point, but I'm going to go to a grocery store, convenience store, and steal everything in it. Then there's that too much risk of competition to get whatever goodies you need. I also don't agree with going to police stations by any degree because other people are going to immediately try to go there. If they don't already have guns, now living out in a redneck country, everybody already has guns anyway, so they're not too concerned with police stations. So I could technically drive over to the state barracks that I know is nearby, conceal some things, but weapons are like guns are, you don't really want them. It's something that Jane Doe even brought up. Ammunition. Eventually you're going to run out. Then what? You're just kind of SOL.
There are workarounds for that, of course. We know. My brother, for example, he makes ammunition. So there is that possibility if you have someone like that on hand. Otherwise, you'd have to go a little bit more primitive. Stick to trapping, making bows if you're in an area with good trees to make bows out of, such as like Osage wood, which maybe in the northeast of the U.S., there would be a lot of Osage, probably further down south as well. Otherwise, I think you could make a decent bow out of ash. Maybe bamboo would work pretty well as like a belly layer. Oh, you have to get creative, of course, trying to go with more primitive weaponry to be able to, I would say more so to be able to hunt than defend yourself in my situation where I would be going out far enough that it wouldn't be worth it for other people to venture out that far. Of course, there's forested areas, right, which would be great because you'd have bountiful amounts of resources at your disposal. Maybe you'd have to do like a good bit of research before this thing kicks off. But like if you're at the heat of the moment, right, you didn't do anything to prepare, where do you think you would go?
Old folk towns.
Old folk towns, okay.
You don't have to worry as much about competition. You don't have to worry as much about people coming after you. If there are any old folk left, they're not going to be sticking around very, very much longer.
Now let's say you were in an old folk town. You went into this little village or something somewhere that is mostly like made up of, 60, 70 plus, all seniors. You showed up and none of them were willing to help you. And they were all like shutting their doors on you or telling you to bugger off. What would you do? Would you try to fight through the old folk and take their supplies? Or would you move on?
All morals are out the window. Time to get rid of them.
Okay. All right. No, I could dig it. No, if they're treating you like crap, why can't you treat them like crap?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I understand it. Faced with desperation, I could definitely foresee your own morals becoming more questionable. I know you have like these pious types that say, oh, no, I would respect
never.
the elders and blah, blah, blah. Those people aren't surviving long, I don't think.
They're at the bottom of the chain at this point. I mean, you're really going to come across like a Walking Dead scenario where everybody's going to have their demons, and it's a question of which one are you okay with?
All this questionable morality and whatnot, it's in a post-apocalyptic, scenario. There's not going to be wanted posters of you. Your face isn't going to be posted all over social media and being harassed constantly by folk. I mean, you're going to be there, do your deed, and be forgotten.
I could be a cowboy.
You could be an outlaw.
An apocalyptic cowboy. I'm down. I am down. Bring on the apocalypse.
Jeez. You come strutting into town on your horse, and
so that's actually brings me into the next point that she brought up to you. Best mode of transportation. I feel that it's best not to keep the same mode of transportation. You don't want yourself to be traced by others. Whether it's you're on foot every so often, hijack a car. Well, a car might be too loud. Really depends on what type of, and I've asked this, what type of zombie apocalypse we're in. Are we in a type of hive mind zombie apocalypse, or are we just in the type of zombie apocalypse that the rest of us have seen on TV, where they're just kind of like dead people are brought back because of some virus that we let loose? There's nothing really special to them. They just have cravings of flesh, and that's it.
What was that movie, World War Z, where the zombies are crazy and they're sprinting and climbing over each other to get up over obstacles and stuff? And
now that makes you really want to choose what type of transportation is best for that moment. Obviously, you don't want to make too much noise because then they might find you if they can hear.
Now the question is, do you need transportation? Do you think that you would be more of a wanderer or more of like a homesteader? Do you find a place and stay put, or do you wander place to place?
If you have a good spot, just stake it out for as long as you can until we see something come up. But the minute that you see signs that somebody might be onto you and be scoping out your homestead, it's time for you to leave.
You don't face and eliminate the threat?
If I don't think I have the things required to face the threat, it's time to leave.
Do we have an idea of what kind of scavengers we would come across? Do you think there would be like that Mad Max type caravans, but instead of like weirdos that spray paint their faces and drink mother's milk, do you think there'd be like just rednecks that are like hooping and hollering?
Out my way, rednecks. For certain.
Yeah, so like cannibalistic rednecks or something.
It's quite possible.
Yeah. I fear that.
Out your way, I think it's the homeless people that you have to worry about more.
I don't think so. I think
the cannibal homeless people.
Done.
No, you think? I feel like if they've already survived as long as they did out on the streets, there's a good chance that they build a tolerance to the things out there.
Oh, man. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I have severe doubts.
They're like Resident Evil type things, so now they mutated and they're just giant homeless people.
I was just talking to some friends yesterday. I said to them, I was like, the adventures that these homeless / drug addicts, go through on a day-to-day, like what kind of world are they living in? They're wandering around. They're like, what did you see on the way to the gas station? I was like, well, I pulled out the gate of my complex and I saw these two drug addicts, a lady and a man. The lady was kind of zombified because she was like barely standing and kind of like leaning back and forth, and she was picking up cigarette. She was picking cigarette butts off the ground and putting them in her mouth. And then the guy that was with her, had his pants like halfway down to his knees, and he was trying to climb a little tree. I was like, what is going through their minds? It's like this. It's almost like watching children play. One kid's eating sand and the other one's, I don't know, shoving a lizard down his butt crack or something like that. It's always like something random and you're not exactly prepared for it. And it just gives you an appreciation for like that renewed childlike wonder. It's pretty crazy to see. But yes, it did remind me of this whole topic we were going to talk about today for like the zombie apocalypse. Cause I was like, yeah, they look completely zombified, these poor souls. I feel so bad for them. I just don't know how to address people like that. So if we were to finish up this conversation about the zombie apocalypse, is there any final thoughts that you have about it?
There was one last thing that we were supposed to answer. I feel like we've covered pretty much everything that was brought up to us. The last thing is, what would we run back home for? And I guess that would be assuming that we're not already at the house when the apocalypse drops, right? What would you run back home for that you just couldn't leave? Anything of value? that you just couldn't leave behind.
So we're talking like items, right? Objects?
Items or whatever you feel. Something that you must have that was at your home.
So first of all, I would say weaponry. My 45, and I have bows and arrows, so I would take those. And then blades, knives, and what have you, just for regular use. And a big enough bag to carry that stuff in. Bag's very valuable.
Bag's good for transportation.
And then, whatever food I have in my cupboards till I can get settled out somewhere and find a place to establish myself in order to get by. But is that too many things? Do I need to pick one thing or just...
Let's see if there was any... if you want to choose one item out of the things, what would you choose?
A singular item out of all those things. I would have to go with a hatchet. I could get by the most with that. Because if I didn't have a blade whatsoever, I would make things extremely difficult. Because with the blade, I could cut wood. I'd be able to harvest different things utilizing that blade. Or I feel like that would be the most versatile tool that I could get my hands on if I were to pick one. I know it's not the best weapon, but it is a weapon as well.
Right.
So I feel like I might be able to get by with that. The trouble then lies in escaping city limits. And with nothing on hand but a hatchet, it would prove difficult.
It's out there swinging a hatchet around. I have a couple things as well, but if I had to pick one thing, I would prove a little more difficult, but I think I have an answer. I have my rapier. I could always take that. Get it nice and sharpened. Yes, I know. A rapier versus zombies. What exactly will it do? But hey, it would be... just a funny thing to pull out when somebody tries to come at you and you go, have at you! This motherfucker has a rapier.
Yes. They're like, who has a rapier? Oh my god.
But that alone, that little shock factor might be just enough time that I need.
Oh my god.
To untie their shoes.
You're definitely dying in a zombie apocalypse.
No, you don't know that. But my other things, take a guitar or something, some instrument to pass the time.
Oh, there you go. All right.
Yeah, if we can grab any other foods that we can take along the way that we have here. We have some nice travel bags that we could always use. But yeah, I'd take the rapier.
All right. Good deal. Well, if anybody else has any thoughts, definitely leave them down in the comments. Say like what your item of choice would be or what would help you survive. And what do you think? Would Merle and Locke survive the zombie apocalypse? You decide.
One with a hatchet, one with a rapier. Who would win?
Who wins?
Thank you for joining us on the Merle and Locke podcast. If you enjoyed this banter, please consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/Merle and Locke, or simply follow the link in the description. Thank you.